She thought she was just lost on a dirt road, and he thought he was just helping a stranger. But when that struggling farmer leaned over to fix her dead engine, he had no idea the girl in front of him carried the one name that had haunted him for 15 years. The name of the man who destroyed his family, stole his land, and left his parents to die broken and forgotten. And she had no idea that the quiet man tightening her battery was the same boy whose childhood her father's greed had crushed like dust beneath his empire. She smiled. She thanked him. And then she said her last name. That was the moment his world stopped. What happens next will shake your soul. Because what began with a simple act of kindness turned into a storm of buried pain, shocking truths, and a final choice that would test forgiveness, justice, and the legacy of 2 generations forever. Don't blink. Don't skip. Because by the time you reach the end of the story, you'll realize sometimes the most powerful revenge is grace. The late afternoon sun beat down on dry Kansas soil as Eli Harper wiped the sweat from his brow. The old tractor had stalled again, and there wasn't enough diesel to finish plowing the north field. He stood still for a moment, listening to the silence of a farm that once thrived, now barely breathing. Ever since the drought hit and the bank took half his equipment, Eli had been scraping by, some days with nothing but stubbornness and stale bread. He hadn't smiled in weeks. Not since he got the letter. The foreclosure date was final. Then he heard it, a sputtering engine in the distance. Not from any of the locals. This engine whined like a spoiled machine, one not built for dirt roads. As the sound grew louder, Eli stepped onto the edge of the gravel path, eyes squinting. A sleek silver car, completely out of place, limped toward him before finally giving up with a sharp coughing noise. The vehicle rolled a few more feet and died right in front of his gate. The door opened slowly, and out stepped a girl. Not from around here. City-bred, that much was obvious. Her long designer coat didn't belong in Kansas heat, and her heels sunk into the dirt like they were drowning. She looked around, frustrated, clutching her phone high like she was trying to summon a signal from heaven. "Need help?" Eli called out, his voice raspy, more from disuse than age. She turned, startled. Yeah. My car just died. Battery, maybe? I was trying to use GPS, but it froze. Then everything shut off." Eli nodded, already walking toward her. Popped the hood. She hesitated a second, as if trying to decide whether he was safe. But then she relented and pulled the latch. He leaned in, checked the terminals, and grunted. "Just a loose connection. You got lucky." He walked to his shed, grabbed his rusted toolbox, and returned in silence. Within minutes, he had the battery tightened, terminals cleaned. He gave the engine a crank. It roared back to life. She gasped. "You actually fixed it." "I actually did," he replied, wiping his hands on an old rag. "Wow," she said, stepping forward, eyes wide. "I don't even know your name." "Eli," he replied. "Eli Harper." She smiled. "Well, thank you, Mr. Harper. I was seriously panicking back there. My name's—" She paused. Her lips parted. "Charlotte Langston." The name hit Eli like a shotgun blast to the chest. Langston. His breath caught. The air around him turned heavy. Blood roared in his ears. He stared at her. Really stared. And all at once the years peeled away. The courtroom. The signatures. The bulldozers that tore through his grandfather's barn. The name on the eviction notice. Langston Industries. "You all right?" she asked, stepping back, sensing the sudden shift in his eyes. He didn't answer right away. His voice had to climb out of something buried deep. "Langston," he repeated, almost whispering. "You wouldn't happen to be Harold Langston's daughter, would you?" She blinked, then smiled awkwardly. "Yeah, that's my dad. You know him." Eli didn't blink, didn't move. His whole body locked in place like stone. He knew Harold Langston. Everyone around here did. The billionaire who built malls, factories, and condos, and destroyed communities to do it. 15 years ago, Harold Langston had bought the water rights to Eli's Valley, raised the rates, choked off access to surrounding farms. People lost their land. Families broke apart. Eli's father drank himself to death. His mother's heart failed soon after. And Eli, he stayed. Held on. Just barely. Now, standing before him, was the daughter of the man who'd caused it all. Smiling, innocent, grateful, completely unaware of what her name meant here. "I'm sorry," she said, stepping back as his silence stretched. "Did I say something wrong?" Eli's voice came low, slow. "No, you just brought back memories." She tilted her head. "Bad ones. The kind that don't die," he said, eyes never leaving hers. A long silence grew between them. She shifted uncomfortably, suddenly unsure of this stranger who had just been kind and now looked like he'd seen a ghost. She glanced toward her car. "Well, thank you again. Really, I'd have been stranded out here for hours." He gave a stiff nod. "You should be fine now. Battery's tight." She started toward the car, then paused. "Wait, before I go, you said Harper, right? Eli Harper." He nodded once. A strange look passed over her face. "I think my dad mentioned that name once. Something about a land deal. Years ago. Said it was complicated." Eli felt something dark stir in his chest. She added softly, "He always said some people hated him for it. He said they were just bitter farmers who didn't understand progress." Eli flinched. Her words weren't cruel. They were just naive. Rehearsed lines she must have heard around boardroom dinners, from men who never missed a meal while families packed their lives into cardboard boxes. He looked at her one last time. "Some things aren't progress. They're just theft dressed in a suit." She opened her mouth to respond, but thought better of it. The wind kicked up dust around them. Her phone buzzed back to life in her hand. "I should go. My father's waiting for me in Riverstone. He's flying in." Of course he was. Still circling over their land like a vulture. She stepped into the car, turned the key. The engine hummed, strong again. She smiled hesitant now and rolled down the window. "Thanks again, Mr. Harper. You were really kind." Then she drove off, tires stirring up gravel as she disappeared down the road. Eli stood there, not waving, not moving, just staring at the dust cloud in her wake, as the past he tried to bury suddenly stood tall again. And this time, it had a face. Eli didn't move for a long while. The wind whispered through the brittle corn stalks behind him, but his eyes stayed locked on the fading trail of dust Charlotte Langston had left behind. That name still echoed in his head, louder than any engine or storm. Langston. The weight of it crushed down on him like the sun overhead. He had done nothing wrong, but he felt like he'd just shaken hands with the man who'd burned down his childhood. Back in the house, the quiet was suffocating. The pictures on the mantel stared back at him, his father in overalls, his mother with soft eyes, his younger self standing proud beside them in a golden field that no longer existed. That land had once been theirs, until Harold Langston came, until everything was stolen under the disguise of contracts and legal terms. He poured himself a glass of water, hands trembling. He thought about what Charlotte said, how her father had mentioned Eli's name. Complicated, she called it. No, it wasn't complicated. It was cruel. And now fate had sent that man's daughter to break down on his road, smile at him, thank him, and drive away like it meant nothing. But Eli couldn't let it go. Not this time. Not again. 2 days passed before he saw her again. He didn't go looking. But in a town this small, it wasn't hard to find out that Harold Langston had rented a villa on the North Ridge and that his daughter had been seen around town asking questions about farmland, his farmland. Eli overheard it at the feed store. She was here for a reason. He drove into town early that Friday, the day the farmer's market lined the square. As he stepped out of his pickup, he spotted her near the coffee stand, looking radiant and out of place, dressed in a tailored coat again, flipping through a leather notebook. He approached her slowly. "Miss Langston," he said. She turned, surprised, then smiled. "Mr. Harper, I didn't think I'd see you again. You said your father was flying in." "He did. He's here now," she replied. "Actually, we were going to reach out to you." Eli narrowed his eyes. "About what?" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "About buying back some land. Not all of it, just a portion. My father wants to develop a retreat out here. Sustainable living, he calls it. Solar fields, gardens. He wants to give back. He said it would mean a lot if you were involved." Eli's jaw tightened. Give back, he said, the words thick with disbelief. Is that what he told you? Charlotte looked unsure now, glancing at the people around them. He's not the man he used to be, Mr. Harper. I know he made some hard choices, but he's trying to change. Eli leaned in. Let me tell you something, Miss Langston. Your father didn't make hard choices. He made cruel ones. He destroyed families, stole water, land, lives, mine included. He didn't just break contracts. He broke people. Charlotte stepped back, her eyes filled with something between confusion and pain. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Eli's voice softened, but the steel remained. You didn't, but now you do. She nodded, then looked away, eyes brimming with questions she wasn't ready to ask. That night, Eli sat alone under the porch light, staring at the old deed he'd kept folded in a tin box for years. His father had written a note on the back before the bank took the land. What they take from us with money, they'll never own and soul. Eli had lived by that. But now, that very soul felt tested. The next morning, a black SUV rolled up his driveway. Charlotte stepped out first. Then Harold Langston. Eli stood in the doorway, arms crossed, heart pounding. Mr. Harper, Langston said, offering his hand. It's been a long time. Eli didn't move. Not long enough. Langston withdrew his hand slowly, clearing his throat. I came to apologize. I know it won't mean much to you, but I've made mistakes. Real ones. I spent years building empires and breaking people. I lost my wife, almost lost my daughter, and now I'm trying to rebuild something, not just for profit, for legacy. Eli said nothing. Langston continued. I want to buy a portion of your land. Not to build condos or factories, but to create something healing. I'll pay double market value. You'll keep full ownership of the South Acres. And I want your name on it. Harper Fields. As a partner. Eli's silence was thunderous. Then, slowly, he looked to Charlotte. You believe him? He asked. She nodded, eyes soft. I think he's trying, Mr. Harper. Really trying. Eli took a long breath. The offer was generous. The kind of money that could fix roofs, replace broken tractors, and maybe save the last stretch of his farm. But it wasn't about money. It never was. He turned to Langston. I don't want your money. Langston looked confused. Then what do you want? I want you to stand in front of every farmer you crushed, every family you displaced, and say you were wrong. Not to save your soul, not to clear your name, but because they deserve to hear it. You want to rebuild? Then start with truth. Langston looked at his daughter, then nodded. I'll do it. Eli studied him. You show up at the town meeting next week. Speak first. No speeches. Just honesty. If you do that, then we talk about land. Charlotte's eyes welled with something more than tears. It was gratitude, raw and trembling. Not just for the deal, but for her father finally facing something real. Langston extended his hand again. This time Eli shook it. Not as a friend. Not yet. But as a man ready to make peace. With his past, his pain, and maybe, just maybe, with the very family that once shattered his world. As they drove off, Eli looked down the road. The same road Charlotte had once broken down on. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like the end of the line. He felt like the beginning. That night, the wind carried a strange calm across Eli's fields. He sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee, eyes fixed on the stars above. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a man losing a war. He felt like someone who'd just laid down his sword. 3 days later, the town hall overflowed. Farmers, ranchers, mothers, and sons filled every wooden bench. Some stood in the back, arms crossed, faces hard with memory. When Harold Langston walked to the front, whispers erupted like wind in dry wheat. The man who had once stripped them of their futures now stood in front of them with nothing but silence and shame in his eyes. I came here not to fix the past, Langston began, voice shaking, because some things can't be fixed. I came to own what I destroyed. I was greedy. I put profits over people. I ruined families, homes, and histories I didn't understand. And to every one of you I say this, I was wrong. Gasps broke the room. Some nodded. Others looked away, pain too deep to show. But Eli watched from the back, arms folded, feeling something inside him finally loosen. The weight that had lived in his chest for 15 years had started to lift, not from an apology, but from the truth finally spoken out loud. After the meeting, Langston walked up to Eli, with Charlotte at his side. He didn't say much. Just, "Thank you for holding me accountable." Eli nodded. He didn't need more words. Sometimes change doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with honesty. Weeks passed. Eli didn't sell the land, but he did partner. The southern acres remained his, untouched. But the north fields now bloomed with something new. Solar panels beside gardens, greenhouses beside barns. Locals were hired. Children played where bulldozers were once promised. The sign at the entrance read, "Harper Fields, built by hands that remember." Charlotte visited often, not to oversee, but to learn. She helped plant seeds with local kids, painted signs, served food at the summer harvest fair. Slowly, she became a part of something her father had once torn apart. She and Eli never spoke much about the day they met, but every time she walked up the porch with 2 coffees, handed one to him, and sat quietly beside him watching the sun fall behind the fields, nothing needed to be said. One morning, as Eli repaired a fence post near the edge of his land, Charlotte walked over and asked, "Why'd you help me that day?" He looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because even if your name broke me, your face didn't know it yet. You deserve the truth, not the punishment." She stood still for a moment, then quietly said, "You gave me both. Thank you." And as she walked back toward the field, Eli looked out across the land, his father's land, his mother's dreams, his battle, and now his peace. The soil hadn't changed, but something in him had finally healed.